A man who's working with such intensity and commitment is not working for not producing result. The problem is, you heard what Krishna said through the words of a king's servant. Whatever you wish to do in your life, you have goals. Whether it's art, music, spirituality, politics, business, you think you will do anything significant. That's all he's saying.
In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna advises us to keep putting in effort without being attached to the results. But I find it incredibly hard to keep working and not obsess over the results. And I would love to know how we can better practice putting in effort while being detached to the results.
Well, I'm not in any way well studied about any scripture. It's unfortunate, but I have to say I have not even read the Gita. But we know the life of Krishna, that people think Krishna means butter, girls and flute. But you need to understand this. All these things happened only till he was 16 years of age. So after 16, he lived an extremely committed life. His commitment was to marry the political process of the day with the spiritual process, because he saw, unless those who wield power are essentially in their experience have a larger sense of life and an inclusive sense of identity, not my family, my children, my husband, my wife, this stuff, you have a larger sense of identity, only then you must wield power. Otherwise, it will lead to corruption. People say, power is corruption. Power is not corruption. Limited identity is corruption. They believe they're doing the right things and they're doing the horrible things all the time because their identity is so small. So he was trying to change this. This was his whole life's mission. And always working for results. Hello? A man who's working with such intensity and commitment is not working for not producing results. Obviously, he's working for results. The problem is, you heard what Krishna said through the words of a king's servant. Nobody else told you. He only spoke to Arjuna. Arjuna never spoke. He lived for 36 years after that incident, but he never uttered one word what Krishna told him. Have you heard anywhere? He ruled as a king, but never once he said, Krishna told me this on the battlefield, not once. So everything that you have heard is only from Sanjaya, who was a king's servant. You must understand the quality of a king's servant, he's very reliable. See, if you… let's say, if your husband or wife or children, they saw something, they come and tell you, they will add a little bit of their own stuff and tell you. It is intrinsic to a human being. Their own opinions, ideas, other things will naturally get into what they're speaking. But a king's servant is trained never to add his opinion, otherwise his head will go. He will only interpret everything word by word as it was. So he's a kind of a ancient tape recorder, okay? He's recording and just telling the king, this is what he's saying. But there's no context. What is shared between two people where there's a very deep relationship, if two lovers are doing something, talking to each other, somebody else may think they're quarreling, but they're doing their love affair. So this is a love affair between Krishna and Arjuna because they know each other very intimately. So he's speaking a certain language. So as king's servant takes word by word without knowing the context or understanding what it is, the experiential dimension of what it is, and he's saying, so having said that, see, essentially it is just this, whatever you wish to do in your life, you have goals. What kind of goal will you set up? Right now you're in the university. What kind of goal will you set up? What you already know, you will exaggerate that a little bit and think it's a big goal in your life. Generally, people call this an ambition, I call this a constipation. Because you're trying to handle life little by little, just like constipation. If you have a goal, your goal cannot be something absolutely new, it is only an exaggeration of what you already know, yes or no? Can you think of a goal that you simply don't know? How is it even possible? So, what he is saying is, don't… there is a direction we have taken, but you have to be dedicated to the process, otherwise goal will just be hallucination. If you do one thing right now, just don't take this one breath, take the other breaths, let me see.
I can't do it.
That's all he's saying. He's saying without taking this step properly, you hallucinate about the goal, what is the point? In yoga we say this very simply. We say if you have one eye on the goal, you have only one eye to find your way, it's inefficient, that's all. So he's just talking about in a battle, if you're inefficient, it is not that you won't get your increment or promotion, you just get dead. Hello? In a battle, if you're inefficient, you think you will just lose your marks or something? A grade you will lose, is that what it is? No, you will be buried that evening. So he is telling him, because Arjuna is talking about how to kill all these people and me become a king, he says, you will not become a king yet. You need to shoot this guy in front of you now, properly. Otherwise, you… not the king, you will be buried today evening. That's all he's trying to tell him. Is it wrong? So, every year in the month of November, we have a business event. So, 200 CEOs were there last year also, this November it's coming again. And they just look at how seamlessly Isha Foundation functions, variety of activity, all volunteers. Volunteers means what? Nobody's trained for the job. They are super dedicated, but they're not trained for the job. And you can't fire them because they're volunteers. If you hire them, you can fire them, they're volunteers, how to fire them, you can't. So they looked at this and said, Sadhguru, we pick up the best from IITs and IIMs and all this stuff, but you're just doing with volunteers and your organization functions better than our companies, how is it? I said, see, all of you are dedicated to the goal. Here, I have continuously instilled in people that you're absolutely devoted to the process. Now what you're doing? You do this well. Most of them don't even know where I am taking them, all right? They're working for a certain project, they don't know what is the goal. I have something else, if I tell them right now, they'll freak. Because my goals are so far, they will give up. So right now, we have instilled this in them, you just absolutely involved in the process. Know the joy of involvement, first of all. Without absolute devotion to what you're doing right now, you will not do anything significant in your life. Whether it's art, music, spirituality, politics, business, take anything. Without being devoted to the process that you're doing right now, you think you will do anything significant? That's all he's saying. Probably there's nobody in the country who doesn't know about Abba Ramdev, we will leave him alone. But what Acharya-ji has created in this country, in the form of this Patanjali brand, in a matter of just about probably 12 years or 13 years. It's become one of the biggest brands in the country, bringing a totally new dimension to India's business. Over $2 billion business, and see, he's the CEO, look at him.
CEO without salary.
So, CEO without salary, CEO without suit, without jacket and without tie. This is an exemplary model of a Desi company, an Indian company really doing well. It is something that the business community in the world, particularly in India, has to learn, that with such simplicity, but with absolute devotion towards what you're creating, what can be created is so phenomenal. In this FMCG arena where they are, as far as I know, I don't think no company in the country in a matter of 10-12 years' time has become a $2 billion company as they have become. And they have the largest food processing industry in the world. Everybody knows these things, but what people do not know is… I had the privilege of visiting their lab, what they're creating there. They have kind of documented 72,000 medicinal plants, which has never been done before in a most scientific manner. All this, look at the simplicity, one man is shirtless, another man like this. This man is production and execution, this man is marketing. This is something that India has to learn from. I've been speaking about this, but these are exemplary models of that to run major businesses, you don't have to strangle yourself with a tie. What you're seeing here, I believe, is the future of India's business houses. I'm taking the liberty of inviting Acharya Balakrishna ji. This year it's all fixed up, but 2019, the Insight, which is a business meet, where we have had people like Ratan Tata, Narayan Murthy, K.B. Kamath and many others. Almost all the top corporate leaders have been here. Next year, he's coming here as the corporate leader.
When I first heard about you many years ago, I rolled my eyes and then I muttered something about guru types. And until few months ago, when my sister gave me your book, Inner Engineering, which happens to be New York Times bestseller, it changed my perspective. Honestly, if it wasn't New York Times bestseller book, I would have not read it. What is it about the West, this West stamp that we can't do without it? I mean, there are so many books, and unless Americans don't approve of it, it just doesn't make sense. Why is that?
So, we've still not gotten out of that Firong syndrome, it has to come from there. Today, why do you think so many people are talking about yoga? The yoga they're talking about in India is largely a rebound from the American coast. They're not talking about the yoga that is here. This is the source of yoga.
That brings to me a question about our roots ingrained in yoga and spirituality. But where has it got us as a nation, as a country, as a continent?
But let's understand this very clearly. Here we always focused on individual development. Because without creating great human beings, there is no great nation, there is no great culture, there is no great world. World, nation, society, these are just words. It's just you and me. What kind of people we are, that's the kind of society, that's the kind of nation, that's the kind of world we will live in. So we always focused on individual development. In this we produce stellar human beings, absolutely fantastic human beings for thousands of years, who created a fantastic culture.
Sadhguru, these days, the common discussion which is going on is again about the refugees. They are coming in millions and millions and millions, where our own are starving.
We are trying to project our inefficiency as compassion, I don't like that. we don't know how to man our borders, but we are talking about compassion, that's not the truth. When somebody comes to the nation's door because they are violently persecuted somewhere, we should treat it differently. After all, they are human beings. But for the economic well-being, people are daily porous borders, people are going across here and there, we need to do something about it. If you just allow people and give them ration cards and identity cards simply without any accounting, this is going to be a disaster. This will lead to all kinds of problems in future. You cannot run a nation without knowing who is in this country. If you want to be really inclusive, we can make the two countries into one. Yes. We can make Bangladesh into a union territory and make it a part of this country. If you're ready for that, I think India is ready for that. If you talk about inclusiveness, that's a way to include, isn't it? Not slipping into my house from the back door and saying, include me, it's not going to work.
Okay, now we'll move to your favorite topic.
I didn't know you figured out all those things.
Okay, now we move to Shiva.
Oh.
So Shiva is what I got from reading about it and doing my practices and spending time with you. Shiva is not somebody looking, like sitting up there and looking at all of us. Shiva is a dimension. It is what they say in science, a black hole where nothingness seems to be the origin of universe. But okay, tell me that so Adi Yogi, the very first yogi, was somebody who has access to that dimension. So why is it that you are obsessed with Adi Yogi? Isn't it like making it about the container and not the contained? Sadhguru, isn't it like that?
Till now I've not said a word about him, you brought him.
No, but you've made the sculpture of Adi Yogi and you…
Yeah, it's only 1.5 years old, but you're not checking what I was doing these 36 years. Let's come to that, that's fine. See, about Adi Yogi is not an obsession, or the Adi Yogi is a plan. You talked about nothing. If you want to understand nothing, you must put a hyphen between no and thing. It's not a thing. That doesn't mean it does not exist. Now, science is talking about no things. That means non-physical dimension of existence, something that is not a thing, but still a powerful force. The source of all that exists here as physical stuff essentially comes from that which is not a thing, or no thing, or Shiva.
So my last question is, Sadhguru, that about our youth, apparently the statistics say that every 1 hour, actually less than an hour, a young person below 25 is committing suicide. Why is that?
Suicide is not a pleasant thing. You must look at what psychologically that person goes through to come to that decision. It's the most horrible part of one's life, where somewhere they feel so trapped, either by physical situations, financial situations or emotional situations, so absolutely trapped when there is no other way. This is when they take that kind of violent exit which you call as suicide. Why is this happening? You must understand, in this country, in 2017, 7,600 children below 15 years of age have committed suicide. Below 15 years of age, when they must be bursting with life and wanting to live. Below 15 years of age, if they want to commit suicide, what is it? We are somewhere driving ourselves to a certain desperation. One big cause for all this is education system. So youth means an exuberant energy. But most of the time, the problem with the youth is they don't have the necessary clarity nor balance. We are launching a campaign called Youth and Truth in the month of September. We are doing events across the country in various universities. We expect you and all your friends in the industry and in the media, please be a part of it. Such a large youthful population, without necessary clarity, without competence, without balance, they could be the biggest disaster on the planet. But if we organize this well, we could be the greatest miracle in the world.
My message to all the youth who are going to participate in this, you can ask Sadhguru all kind of questions, about monthly cycles, about sex, drugs, all the scandalous questions. Okay,
this is being pitched as Youth and Truth, unplug with Sadhguru. Ask whatever you want.
Ask whatever you want.
Nothing is a taboo.